Okay, really quick video today. I just wanted to test out the new dynamic active stabilization in the Sony A7CII just to show you the difference between all the different stabilization modes, as this is the first time I'm trying it and I just really want to see if this is what I hope it would be, which is as good as the ZV-E1 but on the Sony A7CII. So let me show you the results. Okay, first, all stabilization is off, the IBIS and the digital. I got 20 millimeters and my f1.8 Sony G lens, so it's pretty wide. I'm walking pretty normally. Okay, now just with the IBIS on, this is standard. Walking in the same exact way. Should see that it's cropped in a little bit, probably not much. You're still getting a lot of reach here at your 20. Okay, so now we're in active, which is the IBIS and the digital stave. This used to be the best you could get on the Sony A7CII, and frankly, the best I thought you'd ever get. And then now I got the Lumix S9, which has amazing stabilization. So this is pretty good, but you know, not as. And now, dynamic active stabilization. You can see it's cropped in on the 20, so it should be, I don't know, roughly a 30% crop. That's what it used to be in my ZV-E1. But I'm walking pretty much the same way. Does it look any better? Okay, so now I'm in aperture priority, so I can go in and out of the shadows, which will give me more room to walk. But I've always found in the ZV-E1 with dynamic stabilization, if you're moving and shifting a little bit laterally, you're gonna get more jumping, but if you keep it sort of directly locked in your face, you're more likely to get better results. You can still see we're cropped in quite a bit. But on a 20, it's still good enough for vlogging or whatever else you might need. I'd rather have the stabilization than the wide, being able to see all of my hair, I guess, is less important to me than stable footage. It's always been a big argument for me with the Sony A7CII. It was much improved from the original Sony A7CII with their active stabilization, but compared to the ZV-E1, which I did sell to keep this, and then later buying the Lumix S9, partially because of the stabilization, it didn't hurt. But then whenever I put this camera on and see that next to it, it leaves me wishing this had better stabilization. So this was a complete surprise today to find out that there was a firmware update. I don't know what you're doing, Sony, but you're keeping us in check a little bit. As soon as everybody starts thinking, okay, maybe I'll drift, maybe I'll pick up a Lumix, maybe I'll pick up a Nikon. They give you just enough to keep you going. So yeah, can you tell the difference? Okay, so this is the Lumix S9 with their stabilization set to the highest setting. I think it's just called high. There is an image stabilization on top of that as well. I'm at about 18 millimeters on their kit lens in aperture priority, so I can go in and out of the shadow as well. So I'm not sure what that crop ends up being or how much it crops in. I'm also at 4K 24 frames per second in 16:9 instead of my normal 6K 24 frames in OpenGate. Just seems like it would compare better with the Sony A7CII like this. You can also see how their auto exposure works. I'm walking pretty much the same as I was with the Sony A7CII. I've got a LUT on called Skin Optimization. Seems to be the most neutral that I can find at the moment. Now let me turn off all stabilization. Okay, all stabilization is off. As you can see, much wider, almost too wide. In fact, my face looks a lot more distorted. But with a camera like the Sony A7CII, where you have that downsampled 7K or that 33 megapixel sensor, you can punch in a little bit. I mean, there's enough room and wiggle room, whereas with the Sony ZV-E1, that 12 megapixel sensor, you are cropping in 30%. Still looked great, still was fantastic, still better than most of us need. But with this sensor, you're still getting enough detail. It's still really good, it's still great image. So if this stabilization works as well as I'm hoping it does, and will probably get cleaned up with more firmware, as the ZV-E1 also had better firmware that cleaned up their dynamic stave. So yeah, this is no stabilization. Now back to active, which is their formerly best. It definitely feels like you are in an older camera, like the Sony A7CII, the original one did, which had just horrible stabilization, or the ZV-1, which is why I got the new Canon V1, because the stabilization on that is incredible for a point and shoot. All right, so let's go back to dynamic stabilization. And there you go. Huge crop in, but still wide enough. And like I said, I'd rather have this than more room. So what do you guys think? Are you gonna update your camera, or have you already, and have you tested this out? And what do you think about the results? Do you think it's doable? Do you think it's still sort of wonky, or have you found out ways to sort of smooth it out? I always consider that like raising your shutter a little bit higher than normal. So like with Catalyst Browse, whenever you tried to stabilize footage with the gyro data in post, it helped to do like a higher 120th shutter. For some reason that smoothed it out a bit. I know you're going against the 180-degree rule, but whatever. Okay, so I'm not gonna give you a tutorial on how you actually update the firmware. It's pretty easy. Just go online, Google Sony A7CII firmware update, and the website will give you the instructions on how to do that. I prefer doing it through the SD card, just as simpler that way, but follow everything, format, all that stuff, and it's pretty easy. Took maybe 5 minutes in total. Yeah, but totally worth it. All right, this was a quick one, but thank you for your time and attention. Please consider following along and subscribing, because I have a bunch more videos about videos like this on the way. All right, bye guys.